people here. Yes, this week on the Hey You Guys podcast, myself, Rob, and the mysterious Dave will be covering Paul Verhoeven's classic 1990 sci-fi masterpiece, Total Recall, an incredibly smart, complex satire about the nature of self, the extremities of corporate greed, and capitalism at its most, well, capitalist. All wrapped up as a classic Schwarzenegger action movie so that the execs at TriStar Pictures will cough up the budget required to bring this physical effects-driven world to life. So the first question is, who is this Dave?
Doing that on the first take is great.
Oh, yeah. Let's not mention.
That was a lot of introduction.
That was
for
the
first take.
third take. Unbelievable. I never fuck up the start.
Take a deep breath.
I know. Jesus, right. Oh, are we okay to move on to the film now? Jesus Christ. Throwing me into the bus immediately.
I said first
I thought we were supposed to be fucking over Dave,
I
not
said
me.
first take. You're the one who brought in the third
And
take.
we knew what was going to happen, motherfucker.
Welcome, Dave.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Dave. So you picked Total Recall.
I did. I felt we needed a film that we all enjoyed, loved.
Oh, great film. Great pick, to be fair.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing, isn't it? Like, whatever our taste in movies, like, some of us like Karate Kid, some of us don't. But we all love Schwarzenegger. I mean, even his worst films, I've got a soft spot for.
I don't know. Raw Deal is
Raw
a hard
Deal is
one.
kind of shit. Yeah, that is pretty bad. But this is one of his best. I mean, obviously, when you talk Schwarzenegger, you immediately think, we've done Predator. It's amazing we haven't done T2 yet.
Yeah.
But Total Recall is one of his best movies, I think. I legitimately put it as a top-tier Schwarzenegger film. And it's definitely one of the smarter of his films. No doubt about
Strangely, he had incredible amounts to do with it.
Yeah, because it was him who decided to do it with Paul Verhoeven, because he was going to do RoboCop but didn't like the way RoboCop suit fitted or something like that. So when he actually saw RoboCop, he said, right, I need to do something with Verhoeven. So they decided to do this. And what I will say about this film is it's what actually the best for Schwarzenegger sounds.
Oh, 100%. It's all sounds like him in the chair.
Yes.
It's fantastic. I could just listen to him freaking the fuck out. Recall all day.
Him begging for air.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, air.
Yeah. Give these people air. Come on, Cohagen.
But it's not just him. Did you notice when, towards the end of the film, not to jump to the end of the film, but him and Melinda both got drawn into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
She started doing that on Schwarzenegger.
She did some Like, the thing is, everyone remembers Arnie and his eyes popping out.
Yeah.
Melinda's face is fucked up. It's really bad. Like, it gets all fat and stuff on the side. It doesn't... I don't think it's doing anyone any favours. But it's
That's just here in 20 years' time.
Yeah, that's what it kind of is like. We're going to make you look 60 years old, and also you have no oxygen, your eyes are popping out. It's not a great look. But I think everyone forgets as well just how fucked up Cohagen gets. Because obviously he actually goes the full process. He dies.
Yeah.
So, like, it's one of the things in this film, and I'll get around to the fact that why Schwarzenegger's legacy is always going to be more impressive than, say, The Rock's, because he was willing this is at the peak of his powers, to do an experimental sci-fi, ultra-violent, with a true provocateur of cinema. And he's like, I'm going to do a film with him. Like, I just don't think stars like The Rock do that. And this is a film where he goes out of his way a few times to make him look pretty ridiculous. Like, obviously he has the thing up his nose. It's like, for a while, he's like, we're going to wrap a towel around your fucking head. Then we're going to put you in a dress. And by the way, you are going to get hit in the balls fucking loads.
How many times?
So many times. Is that top of your notes?
That is the very first thing I wrote in my notes. Sharon Stone hates Arnie's dick.
Oh, she
That is
can't
my first
stand
line.
it.
Yeah, although Melina...
Did we were saying Melinda, weren't we?
Melinda, yeah. Melina. Is it Melina?
It is Melina. Great stuff.
Loves a grab.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she loved the grab.
But I was amazed that in one film...
Oh, come on.
She hits him in the dick 3 times. That's like 2 times too many for any
I'm
film.
sorry, somebody's got to do the quote.
Yeah.
Or have you been feeding this?
No, but when she walks up to him, what does she say to him? You're still bulging, Hauser.
Yeah.
What are you feeding this thing? Blondes.
Yeah.
I mean, that is up there with James Bond level one-liners.
Yeah.
That is epic.
Well, I wonder if that was written into his contract. It's like, listen, you're having this thing pulled out of my nose. You have me dressed up as a woman. You have a towel wrap around my head. At least can we imply that I've got a massive schlong?
Yeah.
Like, that's like the bare minimum kind of thing. So I think that's fair enough. But it is, like you say, it's weird that he almost did RoboCop, because this is like part of like such a unique trilogy of films, because RoboCop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers don't really have anything in common other than their kind of like high concept sci-fi setting.
Yeah.
But they're these like Verhoeven political satires on authoritarian governance. Like, that's the big thing that kind of links them all together. You've got these 3 films which, on a certain level, you could just watch as, oh, man turns into robot, becomes cop. Man goes to Mars to find girl, or go to planet to shoot bugs. But behind it, there's very unsubtle political satire. And somehow he snuck it all through the door. Like, the whole thing with Verhoeven, he is supposed to be a provocateur. Like, you look at his early films when he came across, it's all sex, it's all violence. And all that stuff is still in his films, but he was able to get a massive budget because on the paper, it just reads like a classic genre movie. But he sneaks in like Starship Troopers. They're clearly SS agents at the end of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, he has, what's his name? The actor who plays the same character in RoboCop and in this, who plays Cohagen.
Oh, Ronnie Cox.
Ronnie Cox. It's the same fucking character.
Yeah.
He's just capitalism gone mad.
Even to the point that how he dies is by falling off something.
Yeah.
Like, he fell out of a window. Alright, he got shot, but he went out of a window. And in this one, he got shot out onto the cliff. And I know we jumped straight to the ending.
It's quite alright. And it is one of those things with this film as well. One of the memorable things, and it goes through all of his films, is nobody does squibs better than Verhoeven. Yeah. Like, when people get shot in his films, like, there's something about the squibs which looks like their skin is peeling off. Like, I always think of, like, Ed 209 absolutely nailing that dude. And the violence in this film is actually a bit more sporadic, but when it happens, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Like, that first scene when he comes back from recall, he doesn't just kill those guys, he's snapping necks.
There's a reason for that, though, for the violence, isn't it? It's because it was cut down.
Yeah, it was going to be an X-rated.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make it an R-rated film, didn't they? So they drew back a lot of the gore and the violence.
And there's a lot of different angles that they shot. Like, there's a scene where Arnie escapes at the end when they're going to recall him again, bring back Hauser. And he stabs a lot. Yeah, he stabs that...
the guy in the face with like a metal frame, isn't it?
Yeah. They cut around it because I think you actually see it go through.
Yeah, in this, you don't see it, but then they cut very briefly to him kind of like flailing about with a metal pole in his head. But yeah, there's a lot of that. Like, even when like the first attack, you see him like go to break the guy's neck, and they, like you say, they don't kind of dwell on it. It's more quick. You hear the next act. It's kind of ultra violent, but like you say, they do tone it down a little bit compared to, say, something like RoboCop when they go, you see everything. Yeah. But I always find it weird with this film that it goes long stretches and you don't actually see much violence. And I think it actually makes it much more effective when you say, I think we were talking earlier, obviously off podcast, about Nicholas Winding Refn. Like, he does that. Yeah. Like, his films like Drive, a few of his other ones, there's very little violence. But when it does happen, it's really effective because, if you see a lot of violence early in a film, it goes all the way through, 30, 40 minutes in, you become almost numb to it, don't you? But because all the way through it's like pretty low key, and then suddenly, like in this, you see him stick a metal pole through someone's head, you're like, fuck! Where the fuck did that come from?
I love how you had to throw in Nicholas Winding Refn because I said I don't like his film. So
anything you don't like, I'm bringing up all the fucking time now. I'm still thinking of how to sneak in Karate Kid again.
So obviously, Dave, you picked this film. So you like this film, but why do you like this film? I guess is one of the main questions.
I know it's fun. It
is though.
The thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger films are you don't necessarily have to pay a lot of thought to it. Yeah. You can let it wash over you. There's lots of action. But the thing I like about this more than a lot of his films is I do like the little sleazy one-liners and the little cheese. But I think Verhoeven must
that is
bring
a classic Verhoeven thing.
That's what he does, isn't it? I mean, I know originally it was going to be a David Cronenberg film. So that would have been a completely different film.
It feels like he could direct this, though.
He could, 100%. But I know from looking into it a little bit that he was a lot more to the source material. So the Philip K. Dick
we
story.
Can remember it for you wholesale, I think.
Yeah.
Which is what they tried to do with I know we'll get into Legacy, but what they tried to do with the remake, which they tried to stick more to the source material, and I don't think it worked.
That's not the issue, though, with the remake.
We'll get into that into Legacy.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
film.
we've said it before, like with RoboCop, with the Total Recall remake as well, is once you lose that Verhoeven-ness, once you lose that political satire, once you lose, as you said it, the perfect word for it, sleaziness, like, he is a sleazy fucking director. And again, somehow, he sneaks that in, like, this is a total Arnie film. Like, you can just watch it and be like you said, it's a fun Arnie film. But below the surface, there's all this, as we said, depth, there's, like, the really kind of high concept stuff here. Yeah. But But underneath that, again, there's all the political stuff he's trying to say, plus this whole level of just utter filth.
Well, let's get to the point.
The three tits. It's only a matter of time before we get to three tits.
No, I was going to say, let's get to the point why this film worked and the remake didn't. It's because of three boobs. It's three tits. It's because of that.
There's three tits in the remake.
Is there three tits?
Yes, there is.
It's
Yeah, but we can't call Colin Farrell as a tit, so...
that again, that is, you know, you can put these things in, but it feels forced. It's kind of like a perfect example I always think of is David Lynch. David Lynch is David Lynch because he is a unique kind of lunatic with this unique image, and you see other directors try to ape his style, and it just ends up feeling pretentious. Whereas oddly, David Lynch's films are super pretentious, but they don't feel like that because you just know it's a David Lynch film. Whereas anyone trying to do Verhoeven feels like they're trying to do Verhoeven. Like he has like a unique, singular vision, like we were saying about it being like an unofficial trilogy. You could watch those films, and the thing that links them is that style. You're like, yeah that's like, because he has that auteur-ish kind of style to his films. Even though they have nothing to do with each other, you'd be like, yeah, RoboCop, Starship Troopers, Total Recall, they're all Verhoeven films, and that's what makes it special. And I'll stand by the fact that, like you say, Colin Farrell is whatever, but he's definitely no Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You can say what you want about that film. The remake isn't a bad film. It's just not Total Recall. And we've said this many times.
Take the name away.
Take the name away, and that would stand by itself as a decent enough film.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because it's totally different. The only similarities are the wiping someone's mind, and apparently there's a woman with three tits.
Yeah.
Other than that, there's nothing.
I completely blanked the one with three tits in the
remake. I can't remember either.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You know, there's a special way to deliver three tits, and Verhoeven's got the.
I think it's more because it's that line, isn't it? I mean, it's and I know we fixated on this a bit much, but it's baby, you make me wish I had three hands.
Well, I was thinking about that, unsurprisingly.
You're just fine with two.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
How do we feel about the three tits? Is it not going to be? Is it not too much? Bit too busy?
Like no, I kind of like it.
You think three tits? Yeah, you think there's that gap in the middle? Just fill it with another tit.
Why not?
All right, fair enough. She's kind of pulling off. Yeah. But we should talk about.
Could you pick up the prosthetic? Don't say the one in the middle.
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, hello.
Oh, we're actually bringing up pictures.
Yeah, so you don't actually see the three breasts, but there is a three-breasted woman in it.
So for people listening, Dave just pulled up a picture of the the remake three-boobed lady. Why am I saying boob now when we've already said tit a couple of times?
Let's just keep saying boob. It's fun to say boob.
But yeah, you go back to that film and it's the
same as RoboCop.
Yeah.
It's the same as RoboCop. Like, I know you feel more strongly about than I do. RoboCop the remake is a perfectly serviceable action sci-fi film. Total Recall, perfectly serviceable. Not great, not bad, absolutely fine. But obviously what you're doing by remaking it is comparing it to a classic of the genre, and it just doesn't hold up. Like, it is that Verhoeven magic. There's no two ways about it.
Let's talk a bit about the film and the things in it, like, because obviously it's set in the future. People go on Mars on holiday, and we'll get into the whole why people want to go to a mining colony for holidays. But I love the fact that you've got all these future things, like you've got the weird Johnny Cabs, which are nightmare fuel. We can get a bit into the Johnny Cabs, because I know, Dave, you said you've got a fact for that one. I'm not going to steal that one from you. But I love the fact that you've got all this future stuff, and the future of making a smoothie is a stick blender.
Yeah,
I love that. Like,
there's a lot of weird, like, kind of future tech in this. Like you say, there's Johnny Cabs. There's actually, like, the most impressive thing, and maybe was something not a million miles off, are like the wall screens. Yes. It's weird that you have the wall screens, but then everyone in their office is using like an old-fashioned what are they called? Those old-fashioned computers with the big screens?
IBM.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. But everyone looks like they're kind of using one of those, you know, and then you suddenly have this bit of future tech. But there's like implanted memories, feels like we could be relatively close to that. Yeah. You know, there's ideas. I think that's a really interesting concept. Holograms, again,
that's more impressive than the big screens. I think you could have a wall of TV right now, but to have a fully 360-degree hologram, you can't actually tell the difference. Yeah. Because apparently you can shoot at it from both sides and not shoot anyone on the other side.
Sorry, that's a major issue.
That's actually in my notes. How did none of the soldiers get hit when shooting the hologram, but when she used it, both soldiers either side of her got deaded.
Yeah. Consistency is a bit of a problem in this film, but you
let that wash over. When I watched this film this time that I haven't seen previously, you can really see the difference when they're sat next to that hologram wall, him and Sharon Stone.
Yeah.
Like, because you see that and it looks fantastic. They've got a wall that is a TV or it's
like a screensaver. Essentially.
It's whatever they want it to be. But when they're sat next to it, I never saw it before. But they're actually, I guess, sat in front of a green screen.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about this film is I was going to make the argument that this might be the last great purely physical effects film, because this was released in 1990 and there's no CG in this. Like even the
there's
stuff
a little bit of
CG.
CG.
Oh, there might be a tiny
because there's the X-ray CG.
Is it actually CG?
It is CG.
Okay, well that might be one little bit. For the most part, though, this is still using miniatures. This is still using fake Arnie heads, which it seems to be unique to him almost. How many times have people made fake Arnie heads? And it feels like maybe it's easier to do than most people because he already looks like a caricature.
But the miniature thing is you can always tell a late 80s film by the use of miniature modelling as part of the landscape. You know that that's not real. But there's something about
the tangibility of it,
the feel of it. It looks so tangible.
Real. One of your favourites is Aliens.
This is it. Aliens. You
Predator
look at
still holds up.
Well, there's not so much in Predator, is it? It's
not miniatures, but in terms of physical effects.
But miniatures because in Aliens, you pointed this out to me, Dave. You have the. Is it the ACP? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's all miniatures.
When it's going up to the building. And that's all miniature. And there's a really quick scene, Dave pointed this out. What do you say, Dave? The scene where you see the guy.
Yeah, so the APC is a miniature. So they drive it onto the scene, and in the background you've got the cooling tower, or whatever it is that they have there. And if you look closely, you can see the top of someone's head. So the guy who's driving the APC is just peering over the top. Now, you would never see that. Ever.
No.
But because, we're all nerds and we like to follow things, people pick these things out. But it's the same with Blade Runner. Those scenes where it casts across the city and you see it, and it's just a beautiful thing. And for a long time after that, the CGI was never quite good enough.
Yes.
No, and it's aged poorly a lot.
And even things like Alien 3, where they started to bring the alien running around the tunnels and things, that was CGI. And Blade 2, where the guy's leaping from wall to wall. And you look at it and think, that looks awful. It almost looks like a cartoon stuck in a film.
Yeah.
But these miniature things, you can still kind of tell they're not real, but in your mind, texturally, it just feels good. And it still looks good. I think that would hold up now.
I totally agree. The tricky thing with it, and what was the great thing in Aliens it does better than most, is somehow add a sense of weight, because that's the thing that can often kind of trip up when you're using miniatures, is that when things collide, that sense of weight is gone, because these are tiny little things.
Yeah.
But in Aliens in particular, they sell you on the idea that this giant APC is going through walls. And I guess that's down to James Cameron's genius to a certain extent. But I totally agree that there is that tangible sense that you're willing to forgive the rough edges on those films. And what I compare it to is the end of the 80s, very early 90s, was like the peak of physical effects. And if you think of video games, you can go back, if you go back to, say, the Super NES, I compared the end of the 80s in physical effects to the end of, 16-bit graphics. You can go back and play 16-bit games, and they still look great, they still feel great, even if they're quite old. But those early steps into 3D graphics now, if you go back, they look horrible, and it's the same with early 3D. Like, the directors who used it to a minimal amount, you think of, Terminator 2, Jurassic Park, they only used it when they absolutely had to, and it's that combination of, CG, but physical effects on top. But those early films, like you said, like Blade's a great example, where they're jumping around and they just look like rubber. There's something
number
about
2 is terrible for that.
Yeah, it's a good film. The second one, funny enough, but
it's a good film. CG, but when they're all jumping around in front of those spotlights, and they become all of a sudden 7 foot tall and super thin.
Yeah, the arms go long and all kinds of shit. Yeah.
So, but when it comes to the sets of everything, the design of everything, it all looks great, as we've already said. But there was one part that made me laugh. So Annie's friend, who was, and I still love the fact that Annie is able to. Oh, sorry. What was his name in this? Hausen? No, not Hausen.
Quaid and Hausen.
Quaid is able to afford that room when he's meant to be just a construction worker. Yeah. His friend, who turned out to be a secret agent.
Joey's dad.
Yeah, Joey's dad from Friends, played by Robert Costanzo. When he kidnaps him and takes him under the stairs to kill him, when Arnie
Sounds like he's going to do something else then. He takes him on the stairs to
when he flings those two guys against the wall, that brick wall, and it moves.
Oh yeah,
Did
it
you
does,
see that?
doesn't it?
When he flings them against it, and it moves. The set direction is either it looks fantastic or it's flimsy.
Did you notice he does his trademark Arnold Schwarzenegger move? So what he'll do is when someone goes to punch him, he'll block a punch and then he'll wrench his arm, and it almost looks like he pops his arm out of the socket. He does that in every single film he does. You watch it, you will never unsee that again.
Well, he's not the most mobile of action stars, and let's be clear. Like you see him in bed with Sharon Stone early in the film. And again, a weird thing in this film.
Why did that feel creepy?
Well, that's the thing. We've talked about it before. Like Arnie, The Rock, they're these guys. They're so big that it's almost weird to see them have sex with a human. Like the idea that it's like watching a gorilla fuck your sister or something. It's just like, I'm not sure I want to see that.
What's wrong with that?
Well, whatever tickles your fuck your sister too. Anyway,
I don't have a sister, so it's fine.
yeah, but the concept. Well, okay, the gorilla. Let's just leave it at that. But the idea of like Arnie fucking a human, I think they know on screen that it's quite weird. But in this film, there's like the whole thing with Sharon Stone and the whole thing with Melina, not Melinda. So he has like two love interests. And actually, other than the opening sex, like kind of pseudo sex scene, I actually think it's okay in this film. I don't find it creepy. Like
it's
both
not
their
over the top.
Like
they don't go into it that much.
The creepy thing about their relationship is Sharon Stone.
Yeah,
like and she's brilliant in this. By the way.
She is so hot in it.
Oh, dude, this is peak Sharon Stone.
I love what Paul Verhoeven said. Like that opening sex scene as it was meant to be, he wanted more of Sharon Stone. Like,
of course he did.
Yeah. So, but she didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, in his words, he got his own back with her on Basic Instinct.
Oh yeah, so just showing everything.
Did she have to get drunk to do a lot of those scenes
in Basic Instinct? Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, she's got to flash the old beaver at that point, doesn't she? So
does she?
Well, that's one of the great movies.
I've seen that.
That's
scene.
Up there with Kaiser Soze.
I've seen that scene quite a few times, and
on pause.
I've zoomed in as much as I can, but
I'm not sure
that scene and the scene from Wolf of Wall Street. I bet you've paused quite a bit.
I do love that film.
Yeah, it's a good film. It's just a good film. That's what I'm saying. Anyway. Where were we going? That seems to have derailed us. Talking about Sharon Stone being hot. Jesus Christ. Everyone just looked at each other. Wait, we have to keep talking.
Sharon Stone, she's great in this film. But it's really weird to see, as we know who Sharon Stone is now, it's really weird to see her in this type of film. Like, I know she's just, I guess, she's not just starting out, but the role she's done, or who Sharon Stone is, to see her in this kind of film, to be, I suppose they want, like, she's meant to be Annie's love interest, but she's not, she's, like, she doesn't do well with the old men she's meant to be into, is she? Because she's with Annie, and that feels weird. But her actual love interest is Michael Ironside, and that just feels creepier again.
Yeah, nobody wants to get fucked by Michael Ironside.
I know. Why?
There's just this idea that he's just always smoking into your face while he's making love. Oh, yeah.
And it's the
sounds good to me.
And it's the way he speaks as well. Like,
well, he's not very. I mean, he's very. He really has that whole ownership issue with her as well, doesn't he? Which kind of runs through the film. But
because he just runs over and just pushes that guy over.
Yeah,
I know,
don't
that
touch
guy
my
who's
woman.
making sure she's okay. He's like, don't you touch her.
Like, he's just a shoot. Well,
but Arnold, what's Arnold been doing to her?
Make it clear though, like, he's Michael Ironside. He looks like Michael Ironside. His girlfriend is Sharon Stone.
Yes.
You would just be like constantly terrified. Dude, of course she's going to leave me. I look like me. She looks like Sharon fucking Stone.
It's that thing, isn't it? When he's about to get into the car and he turns to his friend, he says, "What? You think she's enjoying it?" And he says, "No, I'm sure she hated every minute of it." And he smirks as he gets in the car.
Do you know who that was? So I wrote his name. I think his name's Michael Champion, and I only know him from two things. So he was in Beverly Hills Cop. I can't
That's
remember.
what I knew him from. Yeah.
But he was actually in, I don't know if you know, a film called Toy Soldiers.
Yeah, I know him.
Sean Astin and Will Wheaton. And he was, again, the second in command of the bad guys in that film.
The thing is, he's a terrible second in command because he's got a total Waylon Smithers thing. Absolutely, he's like the weaseliest little. And when he gets stabbed in the stomach,
that's one of the best scenes, isn't it? Yeah. Watching a tiny woman stab him with the biggest knife you've ever seen.
I know. His reaction's legit as well. Like, what the fuck? I just got stabbed by a midget. Like, that's the look on his face.
In all fairness, Thumbelina, I love her. I'm just going to say that. But Why?
Is she the sexiest? Am I going to be the one to ask the question? Is she the sexiest midget ever?
I mean, I don't know too many of them, but you know.
No, I don't know too many. But I was like, she's quite attractive as far as
There
midget.
is Bridget the midget, but we'll go into.
Okay,
that's probably a different podcast.
Yeah, that is a different podcast.
Yeah.
But Paul Verhoeven himself missed the trick that you've got a little woman stabbing the guy in the stomach. Shouldn't it be in a dick?
Well, they've gone to the well, so to
don't
speak,
really
so
see
many
it.
times.
So you're thinking, so
Well,
your mind's telling you.
No,
she
she
stabbed him in the
definitely
dick.
stabs him in the stomach.
Yeah.
Because I was paying attention. Like I was like, wait, did she stab? Because at this point, I'm like, you know, you watch a film usually, and like we were talking about it earlier, films can like wash over you and you just enjoy it. But then you're watching for a podcast, you're suddenly kind of ticking things off, making notes. And I'm saying, wait, how many times has he been punched in the dick? So now all of a sudden, I'm looking out for people being hit in the crotch, and I'm like, oh, this guy is getting nailed for sure.
So did you have a tally mark on your wall? Crotch shots.
Yeah, just got just giant lines, 1, 2, and I'm there with the fucking chalk, just ready. I was like, I'm going to give him 2 marks if she stabs him in the dick now.
Yeah.
But it is.
I love it because you don't know her name until he chucks her the shotgun. He goes, Thumbelina!
Well, I thought he shouted Melina at her.
Yeah, I
no,
thought-
that's someone else.
Yeah.
That is Melina. Yeah, we're getting mixed up.
Yeah.
Thumbelina, Melinda, Melina. This is all getting very confusing.
There's a lot of Inas in this.
Jeez Louise. But I guess we got to ask the big question when it comes to this film. Before we go any further, was it all a dream? So from the point when he goes to Total Recall, and obviously they put him under and whatever, from that point on, is the rest of the film just the 2 weeks playing out? So is the rest of the is this just a dude? He works on site. He drills. You know, he wants to go to Mars because he's had a dream about it. So he's like, oh, that sounds cool. And this mystery girl. So he goes to Total Recall or whatever. It's not. Is it just called Recall?
It's recall,
Yeah.
Because they say he's suffering. He's about to get total recall.
Yeah.
So that's
But the thing is, there are so many signs that suggest he is indeed dreaming. That the rest of the film, like right up until the final scene, when they're like, "Oh wow, blue skies on Mars," they mention that it's subtly in the background when he's going under.
Lots of this.
Like when he's looking up at the screen, they make the image, and I guess the idea is like he's creating the image in his subconscious, which they're reading.
Yeah.
So it comes up on screen. You see the what you call them, like the underground things, which like make the glaciers heat up.
what they call the reactors.
The reactors.
The alien reactor.
You see that, all the stuff he's describing, and he literally, everything he's describing is what happens then for the next hour and a half of the film.
Before we get everyone's answers to was it a dream or not, you are right. They do say it 3 times. So there's 3 separate occasions. So when Bob McLean, who sounds like McLean, he pitches the secret agent ego trip to Quaid. He tells him that by the time his trip is over, he'll get the girl, kill the bad guy, save the entire planet.
All happens.
Then when Dr. Lull tosses Ernie a computer chip, he looks at it and says, that's a new one, blue sky on Mars.
Yeah, totally.
And then when Quaid threatens to shoot Dr. Edgemeyer in the Hilton suite, Edgemeyer says, he describes the events that will happen for the rest of the movie almost verbatim. So you've got 3 scenes where it's always hinted at. So, you're right.
There's more. There's like, he has the dream at the start where he falls down the side of the mountain and his eyes bulge up. There's no reason for that to happen unless it's just his dream.
And
then that
he's
happens
also
afterwards.
dreaming about her,
Yeah.
and she is perfectly on the picture.
Yeah, on the picture. There's
it's-
even like this one really sneaky one. Like when he goes through the X-ray at the start, it doesn't go off, yeah?
Yeah.
And then when he comes back through, it goes off, but only because of his gun. But at that point, he should have a tracking device in his head.
Yes.
But the reason it doesn't come up is because he's not aware of the tracker in his head. So his subconscious can't play that part of the narrative out because he doesn't know there's a tracker in his head. But if it wasn't a dream, the tracker should already be there and should have been visible on the X-ray when he goes through the...
I think there is also an explanation for that. It's also in a big plastic bubble.
But it looks metal, I guess you can make the argument.
I guess you could make an argument that would hide it from anything because it is supposed to be a hidden tracking device.
Yeah.
So
you
could say that.
We'll get to it because I've got questions about the tracker, but you've already asked this question. So let's start with you, Dave. Was it a dream?
Yes, no, and yes. So
okay, elaborate.
So when I was thinking about the film Thursday morning before I actually watched the film, and I thought to myself, I've never paid that much attention to it, but thinking about it, it's got to be a dream because when he goes to recall, he sits in the machine, they ask him what he wants, and the image comes up of Melina. So I thought, well, they're putting that into his mind. So he's then going to run through, he finds Melina.
Yeah.
But then what I hadn't really realised is at the very beginning, the opening scene, she's already in his dreams before he ever goes to recall. Mm-hmm. So it can't be a dream because he's already thought about it. But then I thought about it a little bit more. What they are doing is taking his memories and his consciousness and they're building that into his ultimate reality, which is not non-reality, which is going to be the 2 weeks.
Yeah, Melina's
so
the big questions.
They can take what he's already thinking about, which then, like you've said at the very beginning, the bulging eyes and all that experience, he's already thinking about this. He's already got this image of a woman. So they're taking his memories and using it as part of it. So I genuinely think it probably is.
Okay. Liam?
Because, I do think it's a dream, but I was similar to you. I went back and forth, and it was the whole context of like the Melina thing beforehand. It's like, wait, so did he know Melina before? And the thing is, I think it can work both ways. But when I started thinking about whether, say, you going on the basis that it is real, there were just quite a few question marks on where I was like, I'm not sure about this, I'm not sure about that. You can overthink it and kind of make and that's the brilliance of this movie, is that it does actually work both ways, whichever way you want to see it. But in the end, I just fell down the fact that if you go the dream route, everything makes sense. Every box is ticked. You can make the argument that, all right, say he's already had those experiences. Yeah, he's feeding that to the computer because it's based on like kind of latent memories as Hauser. But then I had the whole thing as like, so was he undercover with, because obviously if that's true, then he must have known Melina and had those experiences on Mars. So was he undercover as Hauser on Mars before they put a chip in his head to make him Quaid? Because they were like, it's not convincing enough. So that's why she didn't know about the whole Quaid. But I'm pretty sure she was referring to him as Quaid. So again, you can kind of make it work with if you're willing to fill in the blanks, but the dream thing just fucking makes sense.
Yeah, but
it does.
The thing is, he has to have his mind wiped because the large majority of the mutants seem to have
telepathic powers. Yeah, that's their argument.
So they will know if he's making up. So you couldn't just go undercover and just fake his way through it because no matter how good he is, they'll be able to read his mind. So he has to genuinely believe that he is Quaid.
But for that to work, though, he had to have been undercover and known who he was first to have had those relationship with Melina. Yeah. So for it to work, he would have had to go undercover as Hauser, had a relationship with Melina. They've decided at that point, it's like, listen, you can't get close enough to Quato because that's the whole point. Yeah. Because he's a mind reader, he'll know. So the only way you can get close to him is if we wipe your mind so you don't know. So when he asks you the question, like, I don't fucking know, because he really doesn't know. But that makes it a very complex side story, only half explained, whereas we can come back to the fact that the dream thing totally works, and also Paul Verhoeven did say it was a dream. So I did check that up afterwards, because I was like, I wonder if he's been definitive, but I suppose, and I haven't seen it, but supposedly on the DVD commentary, he's like, yeah, everything from that point on. And you know what? I think I prefer it for it, because you have all these great grand ideas, but the film is actually very forthright with you. Yeah. It's a dude who just goes to recall. Everything he says wants to happen, happens. It ends exactly how he says it's going to end. And we're still somehow like, but was it a dream? It fucking was. Sorry if you disagree.
I'm undecided because...
Contrarian correct.
I'm not trying to do a Karate Kid on you.
No, it's fine.
No, it's just... You said both arguments are right and wrong at the same time.
No, I totally agree.
It's more
Schrodinger's cat in a film.
Yeah, it really is.
It's Schrodinger's cat.
Because it makes you...
Quaid is
fucking great reference. It makes you think...
It feels less great now that you brought it up.
It makes...
feels like he was talking down to you, doesn't it? Good job, dude.
Thanks, man.
It makes you think that it's hinting so much that it is a dream that it's not a dream. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
It's really hard to... I mean, fuck it. It's a dream. I'm gonna go with peer pressure, and I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna go with the fact Verhoeven said it's a dream.
No matter what you say, if it's not a dream, then the health and safety regulations in 2083 are really bad because they're working on a building site and the guys in the background all have ears and eyes protection and Arnie's just there in a little t-shirt with a big jackhammer, we've got machinery in the background and I'm just jackhammering because I
don't just do my arm, I also do my ears. Come on.
But can we ask, again, we've already said it, you've got the future cars. which we'll get to because
Don't they
they're
look
fucking
like
weird.
Don't they look like the Tesla vans to you?
Yeah, but you've got the future cars, you've got the future walls, you've got everything future, even the X-ray machine.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, when he's on this building site that looks like a prison camp,
Totally does.
just use a jackhammer.
Yeah, and doesn't he do the same
What's
thing?
that about?
Am I making this up? But does he do basically
Running
the exact
Man.
same thing in Running Man?
Yeah, pretty
I'm
much.
sure they're just like, just give me something big that looks like a cock. And it's just like, I'm just going to drill into the ground. It's just like, that's the most
What the
massive...
hell did your cock look like? Jesus.
And what does yours look like? A spade? I mean, if I had to pick
It doesn't look like a power hammer, I know that
He's
much.
been feeding it blunts.
Oh,
Of course. But yeah, like, to come back to our initial point, like that is the genius of this film, is that it can tell you exactly what's happening. It can basically tell you this is a dream, but at the same time, it keeps sowing doubt. And that is the great thing about the whole ego trip. Like, it's a great concept for a film. The fact that it can just feed you like these, like, you know, it is like the Animus in Assassin's Creed almost.
Yeah.
But the fact that they build that whole mystery around it, like to do it so in your face, like they tell you exactly what's happening. At the same time, you're like, oh, I'm not sure about this. But I think it's because you want to believe. Like, obviously, you don't want to believe it's real because that means he's also like that's quite a weird scenario. So say it was real, that means like he's essentially like got rid of Hauser. Like he was a different person, and now that whole character, his personality, he's like, I'm just going to push him aside and become this character who was created in machines like 6 weeks ago. It's quite a bizarre concept in and of itself, but
not necessarily. I think, in a way, if you start off as a blank slate, you're a bad person, you're a good person. Mm-hmm. So Hauser has probably gone through many things in his life, has turned him into this absolute asshole who's just ruining many people's lives. Whereas, you know, as a person, he could have been a good person.
Well, that's
given the right situation.
Yeah. That's the other question mark of this film. If it was real, the other idea is that he's actually being tricked by Cohagen, and that the whole reason he had to get rid of Hauser, obviously, was that Hauser found out about the alien mechanism underground, the fact that they could have made oxygen. So he's like, well, I've got to get him out of the picture because he knows too much, because he's his friend. He's like, well, I don't want to kill him, so I'm going to send him, to, like, put him back on Earth and give him a new personality.
But he's got all the videos of him ready for when he's done his job. So,
well, again, like the whole
they find Quarto, and then he says, "Well, don't take my word for it. Here's Hauser," and he says, "That's my body now."
I guess like the idea. No, I know what you mean, and everything feels like a double bluff, and that is another thing. They just keep sending you down different alleyways all the way through the film, and then at the end of it, you're just kind of like, "Wait, was it just the most basic answer all along?" And I'm pretty sure that's it.
Yeah,
and again, that's almost quite sad in of itself. It's like all this happens. And then, presumably then, at the end of the film, when you have the big flash, you know, and again, that weird scene, I'm not sure if he did it on purpose, but it has very religious overtones, like very Adam and Eve kind of vibe to it, like he and her are like creating, you know, a new world together.
Yeah.
But then I assume it's like Flash, he wakes up back in recalls it, oh no, I thought I'd done stuff. It's like, no, not really, bro. And that's the end of it.
Can we ask as well, the randomness of, in order to move the plot along, you have the non-explained guy who rings him up and goes, use a briefcase. Everything you can, like, you ask me, like, they don't explain who that guy is, where that guy came from.
That's Cohagen's setup, isn't it, to get him back?
Yeah, he's like pretending they're friends.
He needs someone to give him the information, to give him enough to keep the story from him moving.
I just always thought it was random.
It is random, but without that, he's just a guy with a tea towel on his head running around. He would never get back because he doesn't know what he's supposed to do.
I know.
And he gets the money, he gets the passes, so he knows he has to go to the Hilton.
Yeah.
And once he gets to the Hilton, he uses a random pass that he has, and then he gets the last resort flyer, and he realises it's his writing. So it's all something to pass him on to keep going in the right direction.
I just always thought it was random. But I do love, as you just mentioned, the tea towel. I know they've already remade this film, but if they remade this film pretty much verbatim, they are not doing the old turban tea towel.
No, he'd just be wrap foil around your head, wouldn't it? I mean, he had a full hard hat turban on his head.
And I love
by the time he finished that thing was rock hard.
Because not even that, mind, but the amount of folds it had in it as it was tucked in. And I love
origami champion.
I love the bow he gives to that woman as he's leaving.
Fuck you, asshole!
Yeah, what was the point of that woman? That whole scene with the suitcase just felt completely unnecessary. Suitcase.
Yeah, but if he just goes, he'd pick it up. You know, what's the point of that?
It was just like almost like, listen, I want to put my nan in this. She is fucking horrible, and they just stick her in anyway. But yeah, like you say, you keep going back to that point. It makes me think of all the different ways they kind of push you, like, you know, remove you from the scent almost. Because it's not just, it's this or that. It's always this or that or that. Then they have that weird Weasley dude who comes in and tries to convince him he's actually in recalling his
the doctor who was in the... he was in that weird advert on the subway.
Yeah.
He was doing that. And you said about planting everything as well. They actually say, because I think it's, again, Bob McLean. I wrote it down where he says they're planting the seed anyway when they go crooked taxi drivers. They say, why do you want to go on holiday when you get taken with crooked taxi drivers? And if you look at Benny,
he's the crookedest.
Fuck.
They got the best taxi.
He's a great character.
He's great. Shit, man! I got 5 kids to feed.
How many films have interesting? All I could think of was obviously Taxi Drivers in the title, and I was like, the dude in Scrooged, like one of the ghosts. He's a pretty good cab driver.
The Ghost of Christmas Past.
This film has 2 of the best cab drivers of all time in one film: Johnny Cash and Benny. Like the fight,
not Johnny Cash.
Johnny Cab.
Johnny Cab, whatever. He might have the most famous quote in the film: "The 5 kids to feed."
Dave, you had one for us with Johnny Cab.
Yeah, but I can't actually remember his name.
No?
What's his name?
I'll give you it. It's Robert Picardo.
Robert Picardo. The doctor from Voyager. He is... Well, they based the face on him, but it's also his voice. And many times I've seen it and thought, I know who this guy is.
Well, now you've said it. I never even thought about it, but as soon as you said who he was, I was like, shit, he looks like literally him in robot cab form.
It is
and
him.
He is nightmare fuel. When I watched this film when I was younger, I honestly thought that he tried to kill Annie.
Yeah.
When he's going, what was it he says? Thanks for riding with us or something, and he laughs just
before bang!
All I can think in that scene is just the classic guy losing his head. It's just like, shit, drive, come on. It's fantastic.
But I love Benny, I think, as a character, and he is quite a... Well, he has a major part to play, but he's quite a minor character in the film. He's brilliant. I mean, he's got great lines. He's quite funny. But the thing that came to my mind that I wrote down was when they're in the tunnels... And
he shows his arm?
Yeah, right? That's weird enough, right? But he unscrews his hand, right? And he takes it off. And then he unbuttons his sleeve. And there's nothing underneath other than a weird arm. So what was he screwing his arm from?
Yeah. We don't know. Nobody knows.
That was attached to nothing.
And I love it when it goes away and it goes back to him, and clearly his shoulder is like 7 times bigger than it should have been because it's got this weird prosthetic mutant hand in it.
But it looks good. And, what's he mutant to? He's some kind of praying mantis man.
Oh, I don't know. And if we're talking about mutants, all through, since 1990 when this film was released, I could have said Quato was Q-U. Like it was spelled Quato. Yeah, but it was K.
It's K-U.
And it's Quato. Quato, not Quato.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird, Quato, because he's so memorable. Like, we always... It makes no sense, because when we were younger, and we still say it to this day, if somebody gets a really big spot on their face, we call it a quade, but we're referencing Quato, and everyone knows we mean Quato, but somebody made that mistake and called it a quade early doors, and now we just stick with a quade.
Yeah.
So, you got a quade on your face. It makes no sense, because we're talking about a Quato. But
there are so many quotes from films that we've always said, and then you go back and watch the film and you're like, that's nothing like what we say.
Yeah,
but in your mind you think that's 100%
right. Jaws, where it says we're going to need a bigger boat, but he never says that. He says you're going to need a bigger boat because he's talking to Quint.
Yeah, but it ends up on T-shirts and all sorts.
Yeah, exactly.
But we need to get back to Quato because he is the fucking grossest.
I sent you a video just after my son was born. And,
oh my god!
No.
Listen. We talked about childbirth, and all I could think was Quato.
Oh no! Just after my son was born.
It doesn't come out there, mate.
No,
I know you've never seen one.
I have no idea how it works.
Just after my son was born, he was small enough that I could put him on my chest, put a coat around him, zip it up, so his head's just poking up, and I'm going, get to the reactor, Quaid.
I had a chest carrier. So Amelia would sit in there, and the amount of times I was like, I'm definitely doing this for Halloween. I'm going to pop her head to a T-shirt, get her arms through, and we're going to do it.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
Amelia say something really intense. And I think what makes him worse is the voice. The fact that he is softly spoken. Yeah. I don't know why that makes it creepier, but it actually does.
And his mouth doesn't move.
Yeah.
Quite as way as it talks.
And even his pupils remind me of Rick and Morty pupils.
Yes.
Yeah.
But are they sharing one consciousness? Because when he's speaking, you got... The
guy's out of it.
He's just there, just like.
I don't think it's one conscious. I think because he talks about him as a separate person. I think they just take turns.
Yeah,
I think that's.
Do you know what? That's one thing I always assumed that he was born with a weird child on his chest.
I think that is the stick.
He's a mutant. But the way he talked about him, the way I saw it yesterday, it's almost like they were separate people.
Yeah, I think they are. The idea is that they probably were born together. It's like conjoined twins, but they've only got they share that body. Well, I don't know. I'm not
They
sure.
share an existence, but not consciousness.
Yeah. So like you said, when he turns on, he turns off. Almost like a split personality thing.
Yeah.
But like they're just totally on board.
Played by Marshall Bell, who we've already seen in this podcast on Stand By Me, because he was Will Wheaton's father.
Oh yeah.
But he was also the general in Starship Troopers. So he seems to be. I say because he's only done 2, but he seems to be a favourite.
See, we keep bringing that up, and now I'm like, we got to do Starship Troopers, man.
Paul Verhoeven.
That's fucking business.
Can we stretch to 97 in this podcast?
It's 97. I thought it was 95. No, it is 97. It's 97. Yeah, because
I went to the cinema to watch that.
Yeah, so
it was the first 50
I was
moments.
pretty impressed with it. And now you watch it back and you think it's a bit on the edge sometimes. It's a bit, but that's is it a Vietnam commentary?
Yeah.
Is it Vietnam or is it?
What it is?
There is war connotations, isn't it?
It's about like war society, that kind of like that whole American like obsession with like the war machine and stuff like that. You know, there's all those nods to like, oh look how funny it is, the kids are holding rifles and shit like that. I mean, like I said, the unsubtle bit at the end is the fact that Doogie Howser shows up dressed as an SS Nazi. Like, you know, at that point he's really slapping you in the face with it. It's like, do you not get it yet? Do you not get the satire? What I'm going for? Jesus Christ. And as I said, this film isn't subtle. Like, this whole film, you know, if you take away the mystery and the whole thing about Quaid, really what the story is about is that capitalist greed about the fact that he knows that there's free air on Mars. Like, that is the gist of it. And he wants to hide it from everyone. That's what drives the narrative.
So that's my question. When did he figure this out? So there's a scene where... what was his name? Sorry. Roddy Cox. What was it? Cohagen, sorry. So there's a scene where he's walking with all these scientists going, what does this do? What does this do? Is that a memory that Quaid as Hauser is following? Because in the next scene then, Quaid knows exactly what that does, that reactor does, it gives air, but there's no explanation.
Well, there are weird bits. The thing is, it's like a counter-argument to the whole dream thing, is that there are a number of scenes in this where Quaid isn't there. So it's like, well, what's going on here? Like, how is he aware of those? I guess the explanation is it's just for narrative purposes.
Yeah, it's fulfilling the story, isn't it?
It's moving things along for you, because for things to happen to Quaid in this world, whether it be a dream world or whatever, things need to be happening elsewhere. And of course, they're just like, well, we've got to make, you know, us, you know, the watching audience aware of these things. So it doesn't quite work into the dream theory, I suppose.
But in a way,
I think from a narrative perspective,
the imagery he was shown was of those towers.
Yeah.
So whether that's his mind interpreting why that's there.
Yeah, I think it's
is he filling the gap himself?
Yeah.
It's part of the story.
Yeah, it's like Quaid is telling him, but again, it's all part of the
But what's that
machine
scene?
again.
So that scene with Cohagen and his scientists or whatever, they're going, we don't know what this does, it's just millions of years old or however old. Like, is that a memory that he's following him? Or is that something that Cohagen's actually doing at that moment in time?
I think it's a memory.
That's a memory.
So that's a memory. Okay,
Yeah,
because there's no hint to that. And then all of a sudden...
No, it is weird. I think they overdo it. Like, they go with style over kind of sense there. With all, like, the shots where it's zoom. And again, for physical effects, for a miniature, the way the camera moves around, it actually looks really good. But I think there are elements of this where he's kind of like, all right, it might not make sense for the narrative perfectly, but we've got to keep the story going. And plus, this looks fucking cool.
Yeah.
So we're just going to do it. But yeah, I read the same as Dave. That's a memory. And it's just telling you that. Like, I'm not even sure... I think the implication is Cohagen's pretty sure what it does is what it does, but he doesn't want to admit it to himself.
No, because it robs him of everything he needs.
Yeah, his power is based purely on the fact he's selling it, basically.
Tritium and everything, that's what he needs.
Because he needs that to keep the war effort going on Earth.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because again, they're talking about war effort, but you don't see that on Earth.
No. Well, that's the great thing about this film, again, and it's something we keep coming back to from films from like the 80s and early 90s, is the fact that you get the impression that if you remake this film now, or something of its kin, you know, like, or whatever, it's like they will explain that part. There'll be like a 20-minute section where they kind of go back to Earth. But instead, they just kind of reference it, and it keeps the narrative moving.
Yeah.
It's like, you look at it like, we don't need to show that. We'll just like, that's the reason he's doing it.
That's not part of this story.
Exactly. We don't really give a fuck about what Cohagen's doing. The story is about Quaid. They always want to keep moving the story back to Quaid. We want to explain just enough so people have motives.
Yeah.
And that's it. And we can do this motive in a line, or we can do it in a 20-minute section. fuck the 20-minute section, we're going to do it in a line. And we can talk about it afterwards, but like you say, how many times have you watched this film and you just don't give a fuck? Because you just want to keep going back to Quaid. Just keep getting the story back to what's important. And then the narrative can just sit over there, the larger narrative, I guess, the universe, all the stuff.
I think you brought up a few times is the capitalist view of the story. And that's something I noticed. They say about the cheap domes and the reason that there are mutants there on the planet. Surely, if you're building something that has an incredible amount of windows in space, you'd make them bulletproof. For that one split accident or incident where someone started shooting on Mars, you wouldn't want all of those windows to blow up. Now, there was that opening scene on Mars where the soldiers are shooting at Quaid, and lots of people get sucked into space, and then there's the moment where him and Melina jump up against the dome and he shoots, and luckily he just hits the tiny little metal bar. But then I thought to myself, well, this kind of plays into the whole thing, doesn't it? That Cohagen's cheaping out. He's not building the best kind of space because he wants to make as much money as he can, because he's a capitalist, because he's trying to make money. He's trying to sell to Earth the war effort is filling his coffers, And the
other side of this argument is, of course, if this is in fact a dream, it's not very exciting if everything works perfectly. Like you want these, like he needs action scenes. So the fact that, they shoot a gun, it goes straight through, everybody gets blown out into space, it makes sense because it has to be exciting. Like he's supposed to be a secret agent. If the shutters come down immediately, everyone's fine. No problem. He doesn't get a chance to get away. They need to, basically, you get the impression that they've set up a selection of scenes and then he just plays it out. So I think, again, it works both ways. I quite like the idea that Cohagen is just a fucking cheapskate. But the thing is, he's the worst, like, all the way through the film, Cohagen's an asshole, but he has this, like, 2-minute stretch at the end of the film where it's like they really go out of their way to remind you he's a complete douchebag. Like, in 3 minutes, he has the whole quote about a woman's place. Just out of nowhere, decides to do something super sexist. Then he's like, everyone's dying, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to do anything about it?" And he's like, "Fuck him, just let him die." And then just to make sure, he's bad, he kills a couple of fish for no apparent reason. Just like, fuck these fish.
Maybe they were House's fish, and he just wanted to...
Yeah, maybe so. And I was like, God, he is the worst.
I don't know about you guys, but my wife was very upset with that.
My wife as well.
I'm pretty sure they scooped him back up and they were okay.
And then I'm like, oh, Cohen's the worst. But then he delivers the line, "I'll be back in time for cornflakes." And I was just like, what the fuck? I was like, no one's ever delivered that line
everything
before.
You said, because you said about the glass and everything as well. Why guns on Mars? If you've got all these things with windows and everything, obviously everyone's going to die. Why are they bringing guns to Mars in the first place?
Control. It's got to be control. So the uprising of the mutants, he has to bring the military in. So there's a large military presence. The military bring guns, and that's how they control. They're trying to break down that the presence of the
Quato and his resistance. Well, like I said, I keep coming back to the whole it's a dream thing. Like the fact that if these guys are all running around with truncheons, it's just going to be a bit shit. It's the exact same with the really shit disguise. Like the disguise is so over-designed.
Sorry. Total Recall with the Benny Hill music.
Well, that's what it ended up being. And
it's your father-in-law there.
You think about that, like the outfit. It's like it's totally over-designed. The whole 2 weeks thing keeps coming up. Or like when she like 2 weeks. Yeah. It's like that's how long
That raises another question. When she's saying 2 weeks and he presses the ear, this weird fucking long thing comes out to take the head off.
Yeah.
Where's that long thing coming from out of the ear?
Dimensional technology.
Do you reckon it goes into another dimension?
That's a different dimension.
Well, why does the head explode then? Like, why does he have an exploding head on? And
just in case.
The outfit's got one job, but it like melts down at the first sign of questioning. It's like totally useless. But again, I keep coming back to the idea that everything needs to go wrong because you need exciting scenes.
Yeah.
But you've also got all those military there, and they're all wearing body armor, and every single shot destroys the person who's wearing it. So that body armor is doing nothing. Like they might as well just be wearing plastic.
Yeah. Like they're wearing stormtrooper armor. Yeah, basically. That's the gist of it. But
they're all hockey players. And that's all they have.
Let's go to the fact as well that they're all meant to be working for this secret organ. Not all of them, the soldiers, but like Richter and all them, they're working for this secret organisation.
It's called the company.
Agency.
Or the agency.
Sorry, the agency. Okay. Oh my god, there doesn't seem to be any like physical attributes to get into the agency, because we'll go back to Joey's dad from Friends, as we've already said. But which I suppose is good, because that means I can join the agency, so I'm good with that. But the second, like, there's no uniform or anything. One guy's wearing like what they call in America slacks and fucking shit. You've got Richter wearing a random 80s Miami Vice suit. Do you know what I mean?
But I guess they're supposed to be like the special officers. They're like the undercover ones, aren't they? Working directly for Cohen.
You've got Arnold Schwarzenegger working a jackhammer. If you had someone like Jesse the Body Ventura right next to him working a jackhammer, would you not think, why is there just these two absolutely ripped guys working a jackhammer and then a load of normal construction workers? They need people who don't bring up suspect. You know, they're there to do a job, and they're there to get him to believe what's going on.
Yeah, you can't have everybody look in the part kind of thing. People have to look like normal folk, don't they? That's why, you know, like you said, the whole idea they're supposed to be undercover.
But then it's all gone Pete Tong. They've gone to Mars anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're just soldiers. And the thing is, you've got to remember, the whole idea is that on Mars, it's like a poorly run, poorly funded operation where, like, the idea that Cohagen's a complete jippo. Like, he's just tight as fuck. So he's...
I'm really disappointed, because in our friendship, we all know that my Arnie impressions are shit, but you two love doing them. And not one of you during this podcast has said, "Get your ass to Mars."
Get your ass to Mars. And there's a few
yes. What a quote!
Yeah, but none of you have done it. This is where I'm disappointed at. We've gone 55 minutes into this podcast, and none of you have said, "Get your ass to Mars." I'm disappointed in you.
I just like when he freaks out in the seat. He's like, "They kill you all! Untie me! Shit!" It's like, just in like the space of 10 seconds, he's just dropping classic Arnie all over the place. And we haven't just done his noises.
I love it. This is
that's all he's getting up for the next hour. It's just noises.
This is classic Arnie noises. This film is just,
and it's not
riddled with them.
It's not just classic Arnie noises. It's Arnie faces. Like in that scene, he pulls so many faces, and he has such a rubbery face because he's not the most expressive actor in the world.
Yeah,
but he has a very expressive face. Like, you know, even if he just screams or shouts, whatever, like there's that one bit when he gets up in a chair where he's like, "My name's not Quaid," and he grabs it. It's like the camera's right in his face. He's got that big, huge fucking gob on him. It just looks ridiculous, but it all lends itself to that idea that Arnie, while not the best actor in the world, just has that amazing screen presence.
Charisma. Like, he's got great charisma.
Yeah, he has so much charisma.
This isn't going to work great for a podcast because this is all about the face, but when he shoots his wife and does Melina say, "What a bitch"?
Yeah.
And he sort of goes...
Yeah, he just raises his eyebrows.
He goes, yeah, she is.
Yeah,
he agrees with
It's the face he's pulling as well, before it becomes, I guess, practical effects, where he's pulling the tracker out of his nose.
Yeah.
Like, it's the face, and then obviously then his face kind of...
Is that a rubber face? I mean,
it's a fake face. Yeah, it's a fake face.
Is that a whole fake face, or is that just on the front of him?
Well, they put so many fake faces in
I love...
Because it's good, it looks good.
No, it does.
You've already said about the tracker is in a ball. But that grabber thing he's got has grabbed the actual tracker.
Yeah, I'm not sure a nose would actually open up that wide.
Yeah,
to pull a ball bigger than a squash ball out of it.
So this ball is like around the bottom.
Like a golf ball, isn't it?
Yeah, but what I mean is he's grabbed the bottom of the tracker. So he's managed to go through the ball, grab the bottom of the tracker, because when the ball pops open, he's still holding the tracker and is grabbing.
Well, we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt and just say that device is made specifically for that job.
Okay.
I mean, because
it is self-guiding,
so you know. Yeah, they just say it's self-guiding.
When you hear the crunch.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you hear that noise. It's like you stick this engine up your nose and just keep pressing it until you hear the crunch.
And of everything in this film, the one thing that put me out of this film was he fed the rats that bit of, I'm going to say Snickers.
I thought it was like a Milky Way.
Okay, whatever. Snickers, Mars bar, Milky Way.
Yeah.
He fed the rats the bit. Mm-hmm. But when he went back to put the tracker in, all of a sudden that bit of Mars bar grew.
Yeah. Also, it reminds me of just like, for all the tech in this film, just the budget ass motion tracker. You know, it's just a rip off of Aliens, but it's just really shit.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the Alien like motion tracker is like one of the most iconic.
It's Casio as well, if you notice.
Yeah,
it's labeled Casio.
But, I don't like it. I don't care for it.
I thought they made calculators. You know,
we've already said Michael Champion, who played the second in command. They get to the room. Sharon Stone's already on the floor. After she does that really hot, do you want to tie me up thing?
Oh yeah, Phil.
Yes, I really do want to tell you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
I'm not leaving that room. No way.
I would get captured just for 2 minutes to go on there.
And then
I could probably do it twice in that time.
and a cigarette.
Yeah.
It's like, well, there's 2 flights of stairs. I plan on busting 2 nuts, so I'm going to be okay. And now I get caught, whatever.
So after that, and he kicks the guy to the curb, and Richter kicks the guy to the curb and says, "Don't touch her." Then Michael Champion pulls up his little Casio tracker and says, "I've got him. He's going that way." Quaid had already run. So why did they have to go to the room first? He's already got the tracker. Couldn't he go, "Oh, hang on, no, he's over there"?
I guess they know he's in the room at that point, don't they? So they're not tracking him. They're going to.
So I'm thinking too literal into this.
Well, there's loads of questions. Like, there's the scene later on where the weird dweeby guy comes in and he's telling him, like, "Oh, you're really at recall. You're about to have an embolism or whatever." And when the guys come into the room, like, there's a door. They come through the wall. Like, why the fuck do they come through the wall? Like, there's no need for it at all. I mean, fair play, it catches everyone off guard, but I'm like, it felt a bit overkill.
The random car chase as well in Mars. You've got the taxi driver with Benny driving in, and you've got Michael Champion driving. I keep saying Michael Champion because I don't think they actually named him.
Mr. Smithers.
Mr. Smithers.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got Smithers driving the other car, and Michael Ironside punches the window out, and he uses his...
Shotgun.
I guess automatic. Well, this is automatic little machine gun at first.
Oh, okay.
And then he decides, why didn't he go for that fucking shotgun first? That's causing all the damage that seems to be in the car. And can we admit, these cars are weird, aren't they?
Well, like you said, they really remind me of the Tesla van.
Yeah,
like,
but
that's like
the driver has to get out. There was a three-wheeler car. There was a three-wheeler car back in the, I guess, 70s, 60s. I can't remember the make of it because I'm not a car guy. But where you'd open the front of the car.
Yeah,
do you know the one I'm on about? You open the front of
yeah.
it and you get out and the steering wheel is there. That's what that car reminds me of. Like, this is the future. And in order to get into the driver's seat, you've got to open a bubble window.
It's the Messerschmitt, isn't it? Isn't that the American version? They called it the Messerschmitt. I'm pretty sure they did. Anyway.
Well, the point is,
Well,
the reason for it is, again, it all comes back to this is physical effects. So you're talking, they put a fair few cars on the road, and there's obviously loads of extras working on this film. Like, when he's walking through the station, like, none of that's CG, obviously. There's tons of people there. And it's just like, well, how are we going to make a car look like a future car? Like, now, of course, you just do it all CG and make it
But they're
look...
golf buggies. They are basically golf
But
buggies.
they are
with
golf
flaps.
buggies.
But do you know what these
now,
cars...
Nowadays, it'd all be like, they'd all be Audis or BMWs.
Yeah.
Do you know what
And now
these
we'd have fun in the film.
These
but-
cars remind me of the car that Homer Simpson built when his brother, his long-lost brother, asked him to design a car.
The bubble
it is a
car.
bit.
Yeah, that's literally what these cars look like.
Yeah, they're pretty budget.
It's mad.
Although, I, in terms of like that suspension of disbelief, I don't think anything quite tops the end of the film. So when they've been blown out of the airlock, and Melina and Arnie, Quaid, whatever, like their eyes are bulging out, their skin's boiling, they can hardly breathe. But as soon as in fairness, Mars is terraformed incredibly quickly. Like, you know, we're talking about 36 seconds. It's ridiculous. But once they can breathe, they just get up and just shake it the fuck off.
Yeah, like-
I'd be like, oh, my eyes nearly came out the fucking head.
But your eyes have popped out. There's no way they're just going to go back in.
Yeah,
and you're gonna go, I'm all
their
right.
skin's all kind of pumped up and stuff. It's like totally gross. And then they just get up and it's like, you cool? I'm cool.
I don't want to take this too off topic or too scientific, but I do know for a fact that Mars doesn't have an atmosphere capable of holding oxygen.
Of sustaining air, yeah. Well,
So in reality, what they would have done is melted ice, caused vapor, which would have escaped to the atmosphere, and they'd have all suffocated to death.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it would have been a much darker end to the film, but
Everyone's dead.
scientifically, not going to happen.
yeah, my answer to that was aliens shit. I was
Alien
just like,
shit?
yeah,
No,
I was
that's-
just like,
yeah.
that's the only answer.
Even, I mean, the on switch.
yeah,
Three
with
fingered
the
or
hands
four
and stuff.
fingered or whatever it was. It
Yeah,
was
that
brilliant.
did remind me of there's some kind of finger banging going on. I think
the double
aliens
finger thing,
definitely
yeah.
like.
So the aliens like the shocker.
Oh yeah,
The
definitely.
shoe and the pink one and the stinkers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And they love this so much that they put on all major electronic devices.
Because if you look at it, it's still two fingers on there.
Yeah.
So they definitely had 5 fingers.
Yeah.
There was some kind of pointy nail thing going on, but there was 2 fingers going on there, so they were definitely
I love
going
the
the
fact
shot.
as well, it doesn't matter. As long as you can make that weird hand movement, you can turn it on.
You're fine.
Well, it's not far off the Vulcan, you know.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
not
they must have thought, we'll go Vulcan, all right, we'll split it a little bit and we'll go that way.
So what we're saying is technologically advanced, but loved shenanigans.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, we're going to do it so it's one in the pink. You know the one.
Yeah.
Wait, dude, we're going to put on every... No, just the most important one. It'll be cool.
So I think we've exasperated this film quite a bit. So before we move on, I guess we'll all do, like, if we've got any closing statements for the film. So I've got two in regards to the end of the film, which is Richter and all the soldiers hiding in the reactor before Quaid and Melina to come in, and they're all hiding behind cylindrical things, like they're hiding behind a corner, but it's cylindrical, so you'd see them anyway. It just seemed really weird to me. And in regards to cylindrical as well,
is that what you want to leave this film with? Just
they didn't plan this. That was there. That's what
had a shit set design.
So
That's what I want to remember this film.
We'll go back to the shocker button.
Yeah, okay.
As well. The fact that, again, something cylindrical, because this is a rounded button, but
caught the cable.
They caught the cable, that he's able to pull his, what is he, like 19, 20 stone of a mountain man?
Yeah.
Like, he's made of fucking granite at this point. You know, and he's able to pull himself on something cylindrical, and it doesn't just slide over.
I would say
this is a strange way to sign off by just chipping away at the film. one bit at a time.
As an engineer, I would like to chip in on that.
Oh yeah, I'm an engineer. Yeah.
Well, I am. Fuck you. Anyway, if you look at it, the cable catches on that, but it also catches on the sides of the plinth. The plinth is made up of 4 corners, so it hooks over 2 corners, and it goes over the central part of it.
Okay.
So I would say there's enough purchase, theoretically, to hold someone up. Once that central column goes down, there's then not enough surface area for the cable to hold on to. So as an engineer, I would say that is valid.
So this is the first and only time Dave was invited to this podcast. No, and sorry, I know I said 2 things. The last thing, obviously, Tony, who was the half melted face mutant.
Yeah.
He was played by Dean Norris, who was Hank Schrader. Everyone would know him from Breaking Bad. But he was actually in Terminator 2 Judgment Day as well. He was a SWAT officer in that.
Yes, he is. You're right.
So, and he's done a lot of other things. Obviously, his IMDb list is massive, but it's really weird to see that face and hear his voice after, because I've known him later on in life.
I've never put it together.
Yeah,
I've never put it together.
I suppose, is there any last comments about the film from we'll go with Dave first?
I tell you what, I noticed some things. They talk about the war on Earth, and there's obviously some kind of war on Mars.
Yeah.
Fighting and things. There's a different kind of war going on. I don't know if you ever noticed that there's a lot of advertising going on in the background. On Earth, there is only Coca-Cola advertised, but as soon as they get onto Mars, there's only Pepsi advertised. There is a Coke war going on.
But I wanted to comment on this, because is this class as advertising? Because we've already mentioned it, the weird sex scene at the beginning. As he chucks Sharon Stone on the bed, over her shoulder, on the table, there's an actual, because you said Coke on Earth, but there's a Pepsi. There's a weird, I guess, statue or model that people can have where it looks like a can or a bottle is floating. And
They were really popular about 15 years ago.
But there's a Pepsi one in there.
Okay.
Over a short, but is that advertising, or is that just the fact that they've collected some random shit and put it in?
I think it's just any old advertising.
I think the weirder thing is that Sharon Stone was thrown onto the bed and you were looking at the Pepsi in the background.
I gotta be honest, I never noticed it.
No, but if you look at all the advertisers, so when they're out and about, there is a lot of advertising in the background. So they've got the big screens. It's like centre of London. You get the screens.
Yeah, I remember the big Coke one.
So there are big Coke signs, and there's
it almost looks like Piccadilly Circus when he walks out at first in town or whatever it is.
But once they get onto Mars, if you look, there are only Pepsi signs. And I didn't notice this. I did look this up, and it came up. But I kind of like the idea that there are wars going on in many different ways. So there's advertising wars going up there. So they've taken that space, and we're taking this space. And I think it's quite a nice little detail that most people will never ever notice.
No. I do love the fact it's 2083. It's
2083.
2083, and Coke and Pepsi are still strong.
Why wouldn't they be? That's the one thing I would get. Like, I would bet money if you said to me what 2 companies are still going strong in 2083, 2084. Like, yeah, Coke and Pepsi. Everyone loves Coke and Pepsi. Like,
as we're drinking
We do endorse Pepsi Max, by the way, so if anyone wants to
I
send
don't.
any...
I'm a full fat Coke man, so...
Are you really?
100%.
Oh, fucking lucky you, man. We gotta drink Pepsi Max no sugar because there's a difference between us and you.
Well, yeah, only one of us is a sexual tyrannosaurus, and it's the full fat Coke guy. So it's so weird. And on that note...
The guy who's only drunk one beer tonight.
Yeah, I know, such a puss clat.
Anything from you?
No, absolutely not.
No. So you've basically exasperated your entire
You
notebook.
keep saying exasperated. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Inconceivable.
This word you say, I don't think it means what you think it means.
Right, should we move on to...
By the way, that's another film we absolutely have to do.
Well, The Princess Bride.
Oh, we totally have
too
to,
right.
Princess Bride.
That's on the list. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So, do we... I don't
Facts?
think I've got anything else. So, yeah, should we jump on to facts?
Yeah, go for it.
Dave is our guest. Any facts that we haven't already covered?
I think I've done all my facts.
You've done all yours, have you?
Does that silence suggest you have no facts?
No, I've got some.
I was totally reliant upon you, dude.
I was hoping Dave would actually say I've got so I could pull a mine beforehand because I wasn't ready.
So unorganised. Just
Well, I thought we'd done our fact part already. So.
one
No.
podcast, and he's totally reliant upon
As usual, I've dumped my load early. So.
Oh, your poor wife.
Yeah.
So, after seeing Sharon Stone's performance as Laurie in this movie, director Paul Verhoeven cast her in Basic Instinct due to her ability to play a character that could change from a timid, charming sweetheart to a diabolical person and back again at a moment's notice. He also stated that this is the way Sharon Stone is in real life. So he's calling her diabolical in real life. That's quite funny.
Nice.
I can buy into that.
Yeah.
Diabolically hot.
And be happy with it.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger noticed that Michael Ironside was constantly on the phone between takes when he broached the subject with Ironside. He was told that he was phoning his sister that she was currently suffering from cancer. Arnold immediately brought Michael to his trailer and they had an hour-long three-way conversation with Ironside's sister about what exercises she should be doing and what kind of food she should be eating. Ironside and his sister never forgot that. I do,
Nice.
Bring it into a thing and go, oh, by the way, I know you've got cancer, so what you should be doing is some bicep curls, some...
Well, I think he just plans into that.
I guess that's what Arnie has, isn't it? That's what he's got to give.
But, I mean,
no,
if
but
it
he's
were
such a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like, you see him now, it's like he's the nicest Republican of all time.
Yeah, but I'm not sure he's always been that way. So there are lots and lots of stories of him being a womanizer, being handsy.
Well, this is one kid, isn't it, with his maid and stuff. But
But I would say Arnold.
I don't think the two are mutually exclusive, though.
Arnold might be a nice guy now, and he might be doing lots of things. And as governor of California, he brought in lots of reforms to, lower carbon and to be a good person and a good governor. But I don't think he's always been a good person. And there's lots of stories about him doing performance-enhancing drugs and stuff. And he's come out and said, well, I wouldn't change that now. He said, at the time, it was fine. And now, I won't say anything bad about it. So, I don't think he is a squeaky clean, brilliant person.
I don't think he's squeaky clean at all. I just think he comes across as a really honest guy. Like,
he's always been honest. Let's be fair. He's always been
honest. Not necessarily nice. I think there's lots of...
I won't have you on this podcast talking ill of my beloved Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I love Arnold, but there are lots of interviews of him absolutely trashing his competitors, and I know that's kind of part of the game. But I think when he was younger, he was definitely a bit of an arse.
The thing is, though, I am convinced, and you only have to watch the Chicago Bulls documentary as a perfect example, or think of like Cristiano Ronaldo or something like that, is if you want to compete at that peak level, it's all about gaining those tiny little advantages, those little victories.
Marginal gains.
Yeah, marginal gains, mind games, whatever it takes. And if you want to be the best, and let's not forget, he won Mr. Olympia, 5 times? Like, whatever he's done,
an
he
absolute
is
specimen.
fucking dominating.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You're not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger without being an asshole along the way. And I think it's only afterwards, obviously, like, he's achieved so much, and you can kind of, like, chill out a bit kind of thing. But
he's giving it back now.
Well, like you said, the Bulls documentary, like, there's no choice about it. You look at Michael Jordan in those videos, and he's an asshole, but he knew he had to be an asshole because it wasn't just about him, it was about dragging the team with him kind of thing. It's like, well, to make these players play a certain way, I've got to be an asshole. And for me to achieve this level, I've got to win every single battle along the way. And a lot of that includes belittling, whatever it takes. It's all about just winning at that level. And I think that was the thing with Arnie to a certain extent. Well, and I'm not pretending for us like he's some kind of angel. But just nowadays in particular, I think he comes...
So if you look at Arnie as well, the fact that look at his career, governor, actor, everything, from being a bodybuilder,
future president.
Yeah. Oh, come on,
It's definitely happening.
If
If it wasn't for the
if
Constitution, he might have.
if
been-
Demolition,
He'll change that. He'll find a way.
yeah, but if
Eventually.
Demolition Man has anything to go by,
Well,
'cause
exactly.
he was president in Demolition Man, wasn't he?
But they will name a library after him.
They will, yeah. So moving on. So this was one of the last major Hollywood blockbusters to make large-scale use of miniature effects as opposed to CGI. It was also one of the first major Hollywood blockbusters to use CGI, mainly for the scenes involving the X-ray scanner and have it look photorealistic. Do we think that looked good now?
The thing is,
No.
like Terminator
Not now,
2,
no.
we mentioned it, and Jurassic Park and stuff, because it's used so sparingly, it's like, it looks fine.
It's okay, yeah,
It's
you're
not
right.
great, but because they don't overdo it, you just like, that's fine. It's fine.
But it was also the most expensive film at the time of making.
Yes, is it?
£65 million.
And again,
which, when you think about it,
doesn't happen,
isn't.
say.
Yeah, but that isn't huge.
And you-
Some of the movies they've
And you
made.
said
Yeah.
you had no facts left.
Well, that is the
I
thing.
pull them
though.
out of my arse.
You look at the films which used to get it's the difference in like the film industry now, obviously, and how it's moved away from like a star-led business to a franchise-led business. Where it's like the most expensive film in the world was Rambo 3, like an 18-rated action movie. Then it's this, like a sleazy, sexy, dirty sci-fi film, which is really high concept. But of course, because it's got Schwarzenegger's name on the top, they're like, yeah, we'll give you 65 million. It was the same like True Lies. That was the most expensive film ever made when it was made. Like, that's never happening again. You'll never get the most expensive film of all time just sold on a star's name.
No.
Because it's totally moved away from
No,
that.
because these films were all viewed in the cinema and they would get huge amounts of people there. That's not happening now, is it? You are
Well,
not
you are,
going.
but-
Yeah, but you're not going to. I don't think you're going to get the same volume of people going to cinemas as you did 5 years ago. Mainly, COVID at the moment stopped that completely. Like you've had 2 years worth of Bond waiting to happen.
I think it'll come back.
I'm not sure it will. I think now that they've started the revolution of Amazon and Disney starting to show things on TV,
Like HBO Max and stuff in America.
this is a medium that people will pay money in their own home. I'm not sure you're going to get the same volume of people going to
I
cinema.
do think.
Die-hard people will go to the cinema because that's what they love. But people are lazy
You're
now.
having like a COVID conversation. That's different.
No, I
If we-
don't
if
think
we
I
say-
am. I think it started a revolution by itself.
But the nature-
people aren't always going to go to the cinema as an experience. They're going to watch the new films at home because these things are being released.
No,
at
The
home.
nature of cinema, it will always come back to cinema. I do believe that at some point it's going to come back. Like, because as we've just said, that whole HBO Max thing, that's only for a year.
It's already bouncing back to cinema. It already is. And if you take the COVID thing away from it, I think the only real difference is, like, you look at the biggest films of all time, and like recently you've had Infinity War 1 and 2. Like they are the biggest films of all time. Not the biggest film if you take inflation into consideration, but they're still two of the biggest films of all time. I don't think cinema is the problem. I just think it's a change of structure in cinema. As I said, 10, 20 years ago, the reason this got made with the budget it had is one reason. It's because it had Schwarzenegger on it. But now, excuse me, it doesn't get made because there's no stars they can put on the top and guarantee. Like, now what this is a £30 million budget and it's on Netflix. That's how it gets made. Whereas, now what sells it? You look at the biggest film at the moment. It's Shang-Chi. Nobody knows what Shang-Chi is. It's an Asian kung fu movie and it's making millions. And do you know the only reason? Because it's got Marvel at the top.
Yeah.
And that now, instead of seeing, that was, people didn't see Total Recall and thought, oh, that looks like a mind-bending sci-fi I'd love to see. No, they saw Schwarzenegger plastered all over the top, thought, oh, I like Schwarzenegger films, I'll go see that. With Shang-Chi, nobody's looking and going, in terms of the numbers we're talking about, oh, a martial arts film about a character I've never heard of. No, they see Marvel at the top and they're like, I like Marvel films, so they go and see that. So it's a complete shift away from star power to franchise power, which is, the depressing thing is you'll lose films exactly like this. Like back in the 90s, even going into 2000s, you could make really weird films as long as you could get a big star on board.
Yeah.
But now, that's not going to happen.
It's more towards the producers and the directors now, less than star power. I will have to move us on.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was so impressed by how much dedication Sharon Stone had in training for a character role. We've already agreed that that's a lot of dedication. He referred to her as the female Terminator. She was inducted into the Stunt Woman Association as an honorary
Kicks
member.
ass in this film.
Yeah, she really does. This one, because I didn't actually know this one, and I've lost it. No, there it is. Patrick Swayze was signed to play Quaid. when the movie began production in Australia.
Yeah, so
It's a different film, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
they originally Arnold auditioned for it, and the original director didn't. Oh, not director.
Auditioned?
Casting. Yeah, he
I can't
auditioned for
imagine
it.
him auditioning.
They didn't take him up on it because the original story. So the Philip K. Dick story is about an average construction worker looking to do something more in his life. So he wants to do this trip to do something more. So they didn't want an incredibly
He doesn't look average.
masculine man to do this thing. So he didn't fit the original bill. So the company that was originally making the film went bust, and it was Arnold who, I can't remember the film he was doing originally before this. Was it Red Heat?
Red Heat. Red Heat and Twins were the two films.
So the company made Red Heat. He convinced them to buy the rights to the film and to bring him along to do the film.
Yeah.
So by doing that, he managed to get a lot of control over the film, over the script, the casting, and that's how Paul Verhoeven got brought into it, because he wanted him as the director.
Yeah.
For the
Well,
film.
that's the great thing about Arnie's career. And again, we keep coming back to that comparison against him versus modern day. You know, again, like The Rock keeps coming up. And you think of like The Rock now making very safe movies like Jungle Cruise and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like Arnie, yes, he was the big star. And the important thing was he was the star of the films. But he kept finding interesting directors and putting his faith in them. Like, this isn't like a film which has been messed around with too much by Arnie. He said, all right, well, I want Paul Verhoeven to make it. This is every inch a Paul Verhoeven film. And then he was like, well, James Cameron's great, and I'm just going to leave it in James Cameron's hands. Make a James Cameron film, but just put me in it. And it worked wonders for him. And that was the thing. Again, that idea that back then you could make an £80 million film and have it as an R-rated film. It's like, again, I'm not sure if that helps now.
I don't think it.
He just made so many smart choices, Arnie.
I don't think you're giving Arnold enough credit on that. I think he had a lot more to do with making that film.
Or maybe
Because
like
he wanted that to happen.
Well,
So-
no doubt.
it actually moves on to the next.
I just mean tonally, it's pure Verhoeven.
It moves on to the next fact as well, because the concept of Quaid as a buff construction worker was suggested by Arnold himself. In the earlier drafts of the script, Quaid was described Quaid, who was originally named Quail, was described as an average-looking accountant type. Because of this detail, the original intended producer, Dino De Laurentiis, was adamant that Schwarzenegger not audition. It was only after Schwarzenegger convinced Mario Kaser, as you just said, to buy the rights to De Laurentiis' script. The later drafts changed Quaid's character into one more suitable for Schwarzenegger to play. Schwarzenegger said that he felt this helped the story... Oh, come on, fuck off. Sorry, I lost it. He felt this helped the story to give a much stronger contrast to it by making an otherwise powerful character vulnerable by having his mind stolen.
Yeah, but you know what? I think, in a way, the original story made more sense.
Yeah.
To have an average Joe go through that would have made more sense. To have Arnold in the story he's at the beginning doesn't make a lot of sense, because he's an absolute beast of a man. He wouldn't be... I'm not saying you can't just be a jacked guy who works on a construction site. There are lots of jacked guys, but
now
you look at
it makes more sense. If he's a dweeby guy, like you say, like he looks like an accountant, he goes in and he's like, oh, I want to become a special agent.
more of my life.
And I want to be like a badass. But he walks in and he already looks like a fucking like superhero.
Like he's already got Sharon Stone as his wife, right? So he's already doing pretty good. No, he's absolutely massive. Most people would be just like, that guy's awesome.
And if you believe the film, he's got a dick the size of an anaconda.
He's doing all right.
So he's doing all right.
He's doing all right. The only weird thing is that whole thing about like, why is he obsessed with going to Mars?
Yeah.
Like, if it is again a dream, the concept is that for some reason he keeps dreaming about Mars and about some random girl. Again, this idea of dreaming about some random girl. And let's be fair to Melina, who is played by Rachel Ticotin.
Yeah.
Like, she is smoking hot.
She's lovely.
But yeah, she's lovely. She's fine. She's no Sharon Stone. She's no Sharon Stone.
No.
And Sharon Stone as well. She is keen as fuck. There's no two ways about it.
Have you ever dreamt about the same people more than once?
No.
Have you?
But that's, I guess, the whole point. That was what would make it obsessive, I suppose.
Yeah.
He keeps having this dream, and in his head, he's like, well, I have this dream about Mars. I've got to go to Mars, I suppose.
Well, then, can this be a dream? Is this
Oh, no,
already
we can't get back into this. Go to the next slide, quick.
We've already done like an hour and 25 minutes. This is going for hours. So, all the crew fell ill due to food poisoning during production, with the exception of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Ronald Shusett. Schwarzenegger escaped because he always had his food catered from the US. This was because 3 years earlier he'd fallen ill due to drinking tap water in Mexico during production of Predator.
Rookie error.
As for Shusett, he took extreme health precautions such as only brushing his teeth with boiled or bottled water and insisting on getting a weekly vitamin B12 shot. Shusett was even mocked by the crew until they all got sick themselves. That's quite funny.
Wasn't Verhoeven so ill at one point he had to have an ambulance on site to give him drips and things just so...
Read the next...
Oh, is that the next thing?
Is it me or Dave, who didn't have any more facts, has a suspiciously large number of facts?
And I love the fact...
Well, basically, my post-it wasn't big enough to write any more
I
facts
love
down
the fact
to him.
I'm reading these because I've already saved them, and he's pulling them out of his ass. So yeah, towards the end of filming in Mexico, Paul Verhoeven got so sick from food poisoning that he would have an ambulance nearby on set at all times. In between takes, the paramedics would administer fluids and medication so that he could keep directing in spite of his illness.
In pain.
Yeah.
That's
dedication,
that is.
yeah.
That is.
So the original cut of the movie was given an X rating by the MPAA for excessive violence. Some violence was trimmed and different camera angles were used in some of the more over-the-top scenes, and the movie was then re-rated R. Like we said, the escape scene, I'm pretty sure there was the whole pipe for the head thing, there had to be a different take on that, because there's no way they did that and didn't show it.
Yeah, and the same thing with the number 2, you know, the knife to the stomach. I'd imagine there would have been a full frontal knife to the... I reckon it's his dick. I still reckon.
It had to be his dick. It had to be his dick.
I think so.
Definitely
mean, the look on his face, that's had a dick shot to me.
I think he'd be shocked regardless.
He wouldn't be
He'd
happy.
be shocked with being stabbed in the stomach, but the look on his face was definitely... I just got stabbed in the dick by
I think it was like
a little person.
By a really hot midget.
Really hot midget, yeah. Thumbelina. My last one. During filming, a lot of animals were on the set, including a 5-month-old cougar. While in his RV, the cougar jumped on the back of Arnold Schwarzenegger's
There's no animals in this film.
Fish.
Except for fish. There were 3 goldfish on set. Sadly, all were killed.
Why was there a cougar?
Yeah, why was there a cougar?
He thought it might be attacking, but the cougar just wanted to play with him. But why was there a cougar on set?
This isn't like a mistranslation. It wasn't like a 50-year-old woman was it? Trying to jump on Arnold.
Or a goldfish.
Sharon Stone's mum was just...
So that's all the facts?
Yeah, that's all that I'm deeming interesting on this.
You got nothing.
Yeah.
What's that?
You got nothing.
I got nothing. No, I just like
Easily realising
I've got all the other stuff. I've got
pages
soundtrack, I've got legacy, I've got video games. What the fuck?
Jeez.
So should we move on to Legacy?
Yeah. Well, before I do this, and again, I don't expect any feedback on this, but I'm often kind of obsessed with like great runs in cinema, and Arnie's like leading up to this is just unbelievable. Like 82, Conan the Barbarian. 84, Conan the Destroyer and Terminator. 85, Red Sonja and Commando. 86, Raw Deal. 87, Predator and Running Man. 88, Red Heat and Twins. 1990, Total Recall and Kindergarten Cop. And a Nissan Cup Noodle advert for Japan. And 91, T2. I mean, okay, the Nissan Cup Noodle thing's a bit weird.
Have you seen those?
That is unreal.
Have you seen those cup noodle adverts?
Oh, they're amazing.
Oh my god,
there's so many great Arnie Japanese adverts. It's unbelievable.
Is he the Terminator in those?
He's all kinds of weird shit. It's worth watching if you get a chance. What do we usually do next? Is it soundtrack? Let's go with soundtrack.
Go soundtrack.
Well, funny enough, in the film, there's actually by Jerry Goldsmith, who's done a bunch of he's done 5 of the Star Trek films, but he's also done the Rambo trilogy, and I think it actually fits in perfectly in this film because I think it marries sci-fi with action quite well. It has that sense of like wonderment and sci-fi kind of, classic sci-fi tropes, but at the same time kind of suits it as an action film as well, and it goes back and forth between the two. I think he does a really good job and kind of speaks to his kind of background, I suppose. But there are also a bunch of musical cues throughout the film which hint between when he's at recall or when it's the real world, and supposedly it runs all the way through the film. But are you guys okay? You're both looking at me.
No, he's looking at you because he's so good at the soundtrack. He's really good.
But I do have one thing to say. I think the music in the film is brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good.
Right? But the music when they're in the Last Resort bar is weird as fuck.
Oh, it is really weird.
I don't understand what that is. There's no genre behind it.
No, it almost sounds like old-fashioned video game music to me. It's really bizarre.
There's some kind of like organ or something. I don't know what it is.
That's what it reminded me of.
I couldn't pick out what instruments were being played in it.
All I could think was
all the way
1990s
through,
video
it
games.
fitted the mood, it fitted everything. But it was almost slightly light-hearted. and you're in effectively a big brothel.
Yeah, it felt like it was
just a bit weird.
It felt like it was from a different film.
That's the only music that didn't fit in.
It's the cantina from Star Wars when you walk in.
It was like a really shit version. Yeah. But I mean, the thing is, it's not just the action and the sci-fi tropes. It's like, I think he kind of captures that sense of wonderment, like that idea that you're going on that journey with Quaid and he's going to Mars and he's amazed by, he's never been there before. Yeah. And I think that kind of speaks to his background. Like, he did Poltergeist and Gremlins, and you think of those like classic Amblin films, and all those films are about that sense of, even if there is an element of horror, that sense of wonderment. And I think he captures it all. So I think Jerry Goldsmith absolutely knocks it out of the park, except for the exact scene we're talking about, because that scene is weird as shit.
It is bizarre, isn't it?
Really but you forget about it because three tits.
Three tits papers over all the cracks. Unbelievable.
So which one's the wrong one? We talked about this last night. Is that 3 fake tits over 2 fake tits, or 1 extra fake tit?
Well, that's what I said earlier on in the podcast. Is the middle one the fake one, or?
I think personally, it's probably 3 whole fake tits.
I thought it was 3 fake
strapped over someone with pretty small tits.
You need consistency. That's exactly what I thought.
Okay. I think if you think about it, to get a gap in the middle, I'm like, I could probably do it.
Yeah, it would.
So for people who can't see this, Dave is now holding his chest.
As a slightly larger man,
visual representation.
As a slightly larger man, I could probably fit a 3rd tit in. But I think she had lovely breasts.
I got to be honest.
I think they're fake, all of them.
Okay.
I thought it was only a matter of time before we had the fake boob chat. I didn't think it was going to be in the fucking soundtrack section. Here we are. But yeah, moving on. Legacy, beyond the legacy of the 3, which I do actually think is an important legacy of this film. Like, when people say 3 boobs, they immediately think of Total Recall.
But the remake proved that. I mean, there's very little in the remake of the original film, but they still had the 3-breasted woman.
You kind of had to.
But in the remake, it kind of had nothing to do with anything.
No,
it was just there just was a woman with 3 tits. Yeah. Whereas in the film, I mean, she was kind of a small part of it, but she instantly came in and she was the woman with 3 breasts. Benny loved her.
It gave you some of the better. Well, not some of them. It gave you one of the best lines.
She's one character, no narrative purpose. Yeah. She's just a woman with 3 tits. So he's like, I'm going to put her in the film with 3 fucking.
But then she broke in. She talked to what was it? Ironside. What was his Richter. And as soon as she turned around, shot her in the back. It's pretty ruthless.
Well, again, it gets you that whole idea, like, if you want to be really evil in a film, like I said earlier, like, he kills the goldfish. Yeah. The other end of that spectrum is you kill the 3-titted lady. It's like, not the 3-titted. No.
But Michael Verhoeven doubled down on it, because in every appearance of that lady, she opened her shirt.
Every single one.
Like, if you're going to pay for 3 tits, you got to show
her 3 tits. In terms of legacy, I mean, we've already talked about, obviously, the 2012 remake, the Len Wiseman, I think it was, who directed it.
Was that nearly 10 years ago already?
Yeah, it's crazy, Jesus right? Christ. I mean, other than Kate Beckinsale, who is absolutely
smoking.
She is unreal.
But she ruins the performance for me.
But again, it's just watchable but forgettable.
Yeah, because she's
but she's too involved in that. So whereas Sharon Stone, she's there for a reason, and she does what she does, and then she's in and out.
Yeah.
In the remake, it's almost like she's in charge.
Well, she is. She's the Laurie and Richter character.
Yeah, exactly. They've moved them both together. Yeah. And I think it's a bit too much. I think it depends what you want to do, doesn't it? In the original, she's there to make sure that his erasure takes. And she does a great job, and she comes back then to try and get him back into
What's the band got to do with this?
The what?
The band.
The band?
Erasure. Sorry, dad joke. Oh my god.
Wow.
Cue tumbleweed.
Okay. So anyway.
The fact in that film as well that they kept it on Earth.
Jesus Christ! Should we just stop and re-record the whole fucking thing? I'm really upset by that. I'm really upset.
So you needed the fantastical element of Mars. I think missing out on the whole Mars thing made it a different film.
Insane. Yeah. Well, there's so many problems with that film. Although bizarrely, beyond the remake, because this film was so successful, there was actually a script written for the sequel, and it actually plays into the idea that it wasn't a dream, which I guess you kind of got to do if you do a sequel, where Quaid is now a reformed law enforcer. So that's the idea for the sequel. But this film, 1, it doesn't need a sequel, and 2,
it's Inception, isn't it?
Well, yeah, the thing, I guess it is.
It got remade into Inception. So that was the idea. Was everything he did was against the mutants. Mm-hmm. So the mutants were changing things. So they changed the story because for whatever reason, it never got made, and that's why Spielberg ended up making Inception.
Spielberg didn't make Inception.
Nolan did.
Oh, Nolan, sorry, okay. So that
Fucking first time.
Should we start this podcast?
was it. I might not even be thinking of the right film. What did Spielberg make? Minority Report.
Yeah.
Fucking prick. I don't know. I'll go on camera now and say I haven't seen either of the films. So it was that.
Comment retracted.
Well, no. Comment validated. Dickhead didn't get the right fucking.
Yeah. We got there eventually.
Should we say edit and post?
By the way, it's not. Well, you can already guess it's not being edited in post because you're hearing us fucking say.
So it's not Inception. It was Minority Report. Sorry, that was the film that they rewrote. But that was going to be
the kind of general
gist
of
the remake.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad we live in a world where there wasn't a Total Recall.
I also go back.
I agree.
Sorry.
I think sometimes you could keep going with these films, and then you
one-
lose the value of the first one.
Well, this got a perfect end. Like at the end, obviously we come to I guess they agreed with the directors of where that it was a dream. But like that perfect ending when you don't read, like it's got that ambiguity. It's like just leave it there.
Yeah.
Leave it there. It doesn't need to.
I'm also going back to the fact that first timer here said he had no bloody facts, and he keeps pulling them out of his ass. Like, where are they coming from?
Yeah, we're going to just another hour now. Solid fact.
I keep telling you, I just haven't written any of this shit.
Yeah,
I've not writing or nothing.
I'm not writing or nothing. Last section: video games. So there was a 1990 Ocean Software license. I mean, I'm not sure if you remember the Ocean Software video games. They always remind me of remember W.H. Smith's in town in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Upstairs, they used to have a video game section. I always remember like the giant boxes.
Yes.
Ocean Software always used to do licensed game like they did. I think we mentioned it a few weeks ago. They did a Highlander video game, which is terrible. They did RoboCop 1. They did Batman 89, Addams Family, and this was just another in that long line. It was on like the NES, the C64, the Atari and stuff. It was fine. It was terrible on the NES. It was better on the Amiga and stuff. It was like
so there was actually a video game.
Yeah. It was like so many games of that time. It was mostly side-scrolling and it had a few top-down kind of racing sections. It was totally forgettable. Yeah. It was another Ocean Software movie license.
When you say top-down, you mean there was 3 tits.
That's exactly what I mean. In terms of if you're going to make a Total Recall game, I mean, today there's only really one answer. I mean, the obvious is basically to take
Naughty Dog.
No, not. I feel like
how long have you waited for that?
Now, how long is this podcast? It is really lazy, but it has to be Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creed team because the Animus is basically just the recall machine, isn't it? It's just it's basically a different take on the ego trip.
Yeah.
You could just I wouldn't follow the plot of this film. I wouldn't try and retell it. I would just have it in a world where the recall thing exists. People go into it. They get, they don't know who they are. They keep going back into it. They you basically take on different personalities. So you're always the same character. Or even you could do like a Rashomon style where you keep reliving the same narrative, but with slightly different details.
So you build a game.
Inconsistent narrators and all that jazz.
You build the game around the memories. You build a game around the memories more than you build a game around this story.
Yeah, I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't remake this story because I don't think it would work. I would just base it around a world where Recall exists. Or if you wanted to do like a sequel where you play Quaid afterwards and something along what we were talking about earlier in terms of where the sequel could have gone.
With Inception by Steven Seagal.
Exactly. Inception by Steven Seagal. We'll go with that one. But because the whole Animus thing, it does feel lazy, but I would totally have it as an Assassin's Creed style game.
Yeah, I'm not a big video game guy, but I think
you're apparently not a big fucking movie guy. Big facts guy.
Go fuck yourself. I think you could make a better video game from the remake than you could the original. I think the remake would lend itself more to a video game. You could play it and it would run. You could basically run through the film and it would be a better game.
It's more of a classic action film, isn't it?
Yeah, because you don't go anywhere.
Got action set pieces like
the jump through Earth, it would be fun. You could do lots of stuff there. I just think the campness of the original film, the sleazy aspect, wouldn't come out in a game.
No. Can you imagine the level of the remake where you're fighting somebody on that inter-Earth elevator? Like the level that they would do on that. Yeah, that's what I mean. But the level they would do on that would be fantastic.
But you would have to rip someone's arms off and shout, "See you at the party, dickhead, whatever your name
Well,
was.
there's
you know.
that,
Come on, do the
No, it's not Richter, is it? It's someone else. It's some woman.
Oh,
you
so
know.
we're just ripping Kate Beckinsale's
Someone.
arms off now.
I don't care whose arms you rip off. You have to
You
rip
rip
someone's
some of
arms
the
off.
arms, okay.
We ripped Richter's arms off, right? In this film.
Yeah, but he's on about the remake.
What I'm saying is, if you're making a video game, you can't do it as the original
So,
film.
well, you've got to have certain things.
There's no
If
Richter,
we're
is there?
remaking, if we're doing a video game, it doesn't matter what you're based on. If you're doing totally new characters, people have to have their arms ripped off. You've got to have 3 titties.
Yeah.
And for some odd reason, let's have Sharon Stone in there. Why not?
Why not?
But otherwise, what's the point?
Okay. So, to
think that's-
wrap up, reviews.
You are so just trying to just get this shit back up.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, yeah. So, out of 5.
I think Liam wants to go home. I'm not sure.
No, I'm just trying to fix the podcast, that's all.
I'm trying to fix the point.
Anything.
This is Dave's last appearance on the podcast.
until next Christmas.
So, all right. So we'll go around the table now. So we'll start with you, Liam. So as we've always said, so go with your head, not your heart.
Yeah.
In regards to ratings.
They're both the same head.
So
heart,
out of
4 stars.
5, and would you recommend it to others? So you go first, Liam.
Yes, 4 stars, would totally recommend it. Easy to recommend, still a great film, totally holds up. There's some issues, like visually, it's 90s futurism for sure, but as we've said so many times already, I think those physical effects totally hold up. Arnie's still great. There's nobody who makes films like Paul Verhoeven. So, yeah, as I said, it's borderline a 5-star film. Like, I think it's that good. It's not 9 out of 10. So I'm going to say 4 stars, easy to recommend. No
So,
problem.
all right, so we'll go with me. We'll leave Dave till last as the guest. But so again, I agree. It's a 4-star film, and I would recommend it to others. I have recommended it to others. It's a great film. Visually, it looks fantastic. The story pretty much stands out. It all seems to hold up well, and apart from a few hiccups, it still holds up really well today. So, and again, Paul Verhoeven seems to do really well with these films, with these satirical films, with these political aspects of it all. It's just really... So yeah, I would recommend it to others. And we'll close these statements with you then, Dave. So would you recommend it to others? And
Oh, Jesus Christ.
the first burp of the podcast.
You can get that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would agree with everything you said. I think it's got lots of not necessarily political, but it's got that sort of greed style. People trying to make something of themselves, trying to make things happen, and I love what they're doing in it, and I think the acting's not brilliant, and I don't think it's the best film in the world. But I would recommend this to anyone because it is a great watch. It's great fun. And not only that, it doesn't answer anything. But they're not apologetic about that. They're not trying to say this is exactly what happens. It's a bit ambiguous.
Yeah.
And it lets you make your own decision up.
It's almost more ambiguous than say something like, if you're going to do a comparison, like we'll get to the right from here, Inception. You think of Inception at the end of the film with like the spinning top, like that's really throwing it in your face. It's like, oh, did he? Didn't he? Whereas this kind of like on the surface plays it completely straight, and it's only when you stop to think about it, you go, wait, what the fuck just happened? Yeah. Was it a dream? Is he going to wake up? Was he really Hauser? Or is he still there's
But it's
all
up to
these
you,
questions.
isn't it? That's the thing. It's totally up to you what you make of the film.
So what you're saying is, it's a patent pending, hey you guys quote, it may not be a great film, but it's a great watch.
It's one of my all-time favourite films. It's not the best film I've ever seen. So on that basis, I'd probably give it a 4.36.
This fucking guy. So I'm assuming 4.36 means a recommendation to others.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have recommended this to lots of people, and I've made my wife watch this so many times that she loves it now, whether she likes it or not.
Yeah, she's going on board.
Yeah, no, it's a great film. It's not an Oscar-winning film. It doesn't make you cry. It doesn't make you feel. It doesn't make you, but it does make you think, and that's the thing. There's not many Arnold films that make you think this much.
Well, that is, as I said, the beauty of this film is the fact that it can make you think if you want to think.
Yeah.
It's a smarter film almost than it lets on the surface. Like on a surface level, this is just an exciting Arnie action film. But then underneath the surface, you can take a look at the political satire. You can take a look at the fact that, with all the different layers, that anything could really be going on. And the fact, it really doesn't make it clear to you. I mean, we've watched it a bunch of times and we're of the agreement now that it's probably a dream. But even then, it's like, how many times, if you'd asked me this even like a couple of days ago before I rewatched it, I'd be like, I'm not fucking sure. I'm totally not sure. So yeah, I think this film works on numerous levels, and I think that speaks to the genius of Paul Verhoeven.
I have seen this film at least 100 times.
Yeah.
And up until you told me we were going to actually release this to other people, I'd never really thought that much about it. I just assumed,
don't have to.
He just had the memories put in. That's what's happening now. But when you really look at it, there are so many complex levels to it.
It's looking at it through a critical eye.
Yeah. And I'd never done that before. Yeah. And when you do it, you'll never get a right answer. Either way, you're right. Either way, you're wrong. So it doesn't matter what happens. Enjoy the film. And anyone who watches it, if you don't enjoy it, well, you're not my friend.
Well, now we get to cast that critical eye upon another 80s... Well, no, that was 1990, wasn't it?
Before we move on... sorry. I just want to say... So I just wanted to thank Dave in closing before we move on to what's coming next week.
I was going to do that at the end, but fine.
Yeah, no, we're going to... Because we're closing off Total Recall. So I just wanted to thank Dave for picking the film and for actually being a guest on our podcast. Our first guest...
Fucking gaslighting me.
Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation. I enjoyed it.
Our first guest of the podcast. And thank you for picking the film. And we've had this is one of our longest podcasts, so we've had a great time today. So next week then is actually we've postponed Liam's choice for 2 weeks because last week we did Weekend at Bernie's with the Side Group Cinema guys, and this week
feels like he's postponing it again. If anything, he just won't let me get to it, will he?
This week we let Dave pick, and next week I'm going to pick.
And then the next week I'm picking again.
Yeah. But no, in all fairness, so next week we're going to do what, Liam?
Masters of the Universe. It was the first film I ever saw in the cinema. Let's be honest, it's not a classic, but it's a really fun film, and I'm totally looking forward to rewatching it. You not so much?
I've had this film on record for ages because I knew we were going to cover it. So I'm really looking forward to rewatching it because I loved it as a kid. And maybe I did.
What was the last Dolph Lundgren film we watched together?
Oh my god!
How good was that?
Scorpion. That was terrible. So, sorry. Side note: we grew up watching Red Scorpion.
Me too.
Yeah. So we both told each other we still loved this film. We made all our friends watch this film on a Saturday night after having some drinks and some food, and all we could do was apologise.
It's not good.
It's not a good film.
In fairness, Master of the Universe is a better film than Red Scorpion. There's no two ways about it. It is a really weird film, though.
We'll see next week, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing Meg Foster again as Evil Lynn.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, the thing at the moment is like they're doing a lot of Master of the Universe stuff on Netflix. Like there's the He-Man thing for like the kids, and there's the Master Universe thing done by Kevin Smith.
Yes.
This is barely a Masters of the Universe film, and I think a lot of it is down to the fact that Dolph Lundgren can hardly speak English. But I think it actually lends the film a strange credence. Needless to say, I'm not convinced it's a great film, but I think it's going to be really fun to rewatch.
So it's going to be, again, as I've already said today, it's going to be maybe not a good film, but a great watch. But we'll get to it next week.
But it might also be a terrible film and a terrible watch. So we'll see soon enough, I suppose.
So thanks, Dave, for joining us on this podcast.
Thank you
we really
for inviting
appreciate it. And I guess we'll end it there. And next week, we're going to be watching Masters of the Universe. So thank you very much for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.
Oh, yeah, and before I forget, because I always forget, here's Rob telling you where you can actually find us.
Yeah, so we're currently on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Hey You Guys 80s or at Hey You Guys 80s. And we're also on email at heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Please feel free to drop us any emails, any recommendations, or any reviews you have. But whilst we're on about that, wherever you get your podcasts, please also smash the subscribe button. Yes, I said smash.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Leave us a review and leave us some 5-star ratings as well. But make sure they're 5-star ratings.
Yeah. We're not interested in 1 star. 5-star. If it's not going to be 5-star, don't go smashing anything. Just leave your opinion to yourself. 5-star ratings only. But yeah, if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See you next week.